Today we try to discuss this network Linux overview and how this operating system is be useful in various aspects in this in network security and system security point of view. So the module objectives is we just try to learn some basics of your the Linux, and then we try to work on the Linux shell, or we call console or the command line interfaces, and then we try to discuss a little bit a concept between how this Linux operating system is used on client side as well as on the server side. So what are different kind of functionalities and tools that Linux operating system provides for client as well as for the server side. And then as a network analyst or cybersecurity analyst, one should understand the basic the administrative privileges, how they are operated, and the operating system that we discuss. And then we talk about the Linux file system because everything is recorded and filed. So this operating system is the file-based operating system. So we try to work on the file system, how to create the file, how to change the directories, how to make the directories, how to look into what are the different files are available in that directory. So different commands, we will talk about that. And then we'll little bit talk about the graphical user interface, which provides the different operating systems of the Linux family or categories for network analysis purpose and for the penetration testing purpose that we discuss in that. And then finally, we try to work on a Linux host. So what are the different tools on host are available so that they can be used to protect the network and the individual system in the network that we talk about this. So here we just implement some basic Linux security commands and basic Linux the security tools, how they are helpful for the network protection purpose, right? So if you talk about the Linux, as you know, Linux is a the operating system. It is an open source operating system. That means there is no cost for this operating system. It is freely available for any in the individual who can work on this operating system. And another the important part of this operating system is it takes less the resources to install on your individual devices, but it can operate to protect your network and your end systems also. And it is based on the file system, so the processing time for this operating system is very less. It can take any huge the sized file can be processed in a short duration of time. So that is another beauty of this. So the Linux is just part of several platforms that can found on devices anywhere from the wristwatches to your supercomputers. So everywhere it is there. And this mainly these Linux operating systems which are used for connecting the networks. So all the network based applications can be easily run as said because of this less resources it is using, but the processing speed is more. If any network based applications are there, like your web applications or your any other applications, so they can be run easily by this operating system. And these operating systems, having certain values. What are those? First, this is an open source, so it is available to everyone with free of cost. Another one is this operating system is based on your CLI, that is the command line interface, which is very powerful for any administrators. So this CLI interface is extremely powerful to enable analysts to perform tasks not only directly on the terminal but also remotely. You can sit at remote location and you can work with the machine by following some the remote connection protocols like the SSL or the TL protocols that you can use for connecting the remote sensing one. And then the most important one is the users has more control over this operating system, because the administrator users in this Linux, they are also known as root users, or also we call them as your super users. So if you are going to modify, if you are going to create any file, if you are going to delete any file, if you are going to work on any file, you need a privilege of your the administrative privileges are required. So that we call as your root user or your supervised users. They can modify the computer configurations for providing different services also. So that's the reason the operating system, means the Linux operating system, is used to configure services in the network of small industry, or the medium industry, or the large industry part. And this operating system, which allows a better network communication control by providing many open source tools to control the network. Many open source tools. So, for example, as we discussed in the previous class, we are talking about the the most important the wing of any organization is your security operations center, right? In the security operations center, we have seen that there are three different types of employees will be there. In tier one, they are just observe the alerts, what kind of packets are entering into the network, and what kind of packets are going outside the network. If those packets are matching with the pre-existing rules, then alerts will come, alarms will come, and that report will give to the next level of your SOS employees, we call Tier 2. So Tier 2 employees can take certain action against these packets, these alarms, right? So in SOS, either in the Tier 1, in Tier 2, or in Tier 3, it provides the operating system that perfectly used for security analysis platforms. So there is one, special version of your Linux we called as your security onion, which we are going to use in our laboratory. This security onion operating system, which consists of all network related tools in that operating system which are open. So those tools are used for analyzing the traffic in the network. So that is one. So this security onion is the open source suite for tools together for network security analysis purpose. So in network security analysis, if any packet comes, in that packet we identify what is the source address, what is the destination IP address, what is the port used by that packet. So all these details will be given by some specialized tools. We call them as we are going to talk about those tools in shorter way. So there is one tool we call the SGUL tool, which is used in this Linux, and how this security onion or Kali Linux operating system, these are one versions of your operating system used in SOC means there are some tools which are used for capturing certain packets. Now what kind of packets are coming and what kind of packets are going, we call them as the network packet capturing tools, which are inbuilt in this security onion, the operating system, Linux operating system. So these are the very crucial tools for SOC analysts or Tier 1, Tier 2 job makers. So it makes it possible to observe and understand every detail of your network transactions by just capturing those packets. So there is one very popular tool to capture these packets we called Wireshark. This is one of the network tool, Wireshark, and that is available with the security onion as well as cyber security operating system also. And we have seen that to become a white hat hacker or you are the gray hat hacker, they try to execute the malwares on their own machines to check is there any vulnerabilities. They try to execute this malware on their own organization machines to check whether network is safe or not to find out the vulnerabilities. So that tools are also there, the malware analysis tools. So these tools allow the analyst to safely run and observe this malware execution without any risk of compromising the underlying systems. And another important tool to protect the network or devices is your intrusion detection system, IDS. So this intrusion detection system is a predefined or it is a rule-based systems. These are predefined and rule-based systems. If any packet is entering into the network, if that packet is matching with the existing pre-rule, then only it is allowed inside or else it will drop there itself. So these tools are used for the real-time traffic monitoring, what kind of packets are coming, what packets are going out, and they can do the inspection on those packets. So if any aspect of currently flowing traffic from inside to outside network that matches any of the established rules, a predefined action is taken, whether it will be allowed or dropped. So these tools are also available for the security, the operation service purpose. And the another important part for your network security analyst is your firewalls, to understand firewalls. So some firewalls are also available on the security and an operating system. So what is the basic important of this firewall? These firewalls are most important part of your network. So what they do, if any attackers are trying to attack the network, they attack through packets only in terms of networks, internet, right? So this software, this firewall software is used to specify based on predefined rules whether the traffic is allowed to enter or leave the network or any individual devices. And another, the important tool which is available is log managers. So these log managers are, in the network, in a small network or in a medium network, you can find, very less traffic, supposing, if assuming. But if there is a large network, there are a lot of events happens in this network. So every event capture and make it available and file and make it their log file is difficult. So to automatically capture the log files forever and record every event happening on this network is the log managers. So because a network can generate very large number of the log entries, so this log manager software is the employed to facilitate this log monitoring system. And in security operations center, we have seen another part, very important tool. I mean, the aspect of that one is your security information and your event management system. So in this security information and event management system, it collects the information from different entities in the network, either from individual device, from firewall, from your intrusion detection system side, from your the network routers, from switches. So it collects all the information, and all those informations will be filtered and organized in a way. So there, it uses the security information and event management. So this tool is also available with the operating system called Linux. And another one is, as we know that in the network analysis, a network analyst or your cybersecurity analyst, they follow the ticket management system, right? So So they create the ticket, and for that ticket, they try to find the solution and take the appropriate action, right? So this ticketing system is also there in the this operating system. So that is the task ticket assignment first, then editing that ticket, then recording is done through a ticket management system which is available as a tool. So security alerts are often assigned to analysts through this ticketing system. So these are the few tools which are most important and useful for any network and the cybersecurity analyst. So if you see in this, the extension of this network and the system security, there will be a another the advance of this one is your penetration testing, we call. I'm going to offer that penetration testing course in the next semester, in the spring semester. So in that, the individual, they try to act as a gray hat attacker or your white hat attacker by practicing on their own devices or own network to gather the information, is there any vulnerabilities or not. So to do that, there is another specialized the operating system or another distributed version of your Linux we call the Kali Linux. In this Kali Linux operating system, which consists of many penetration testing tools, we call them to gather the information and and to check is there any vulnerabilities are there on that network. So vulnerability tools are there to gathering the information that we say is the recurrence attack. So that recurrence attack can also be done by this Kali Linux operating system, and by doing some social engineering tools are also available to do the direct attack on the machines on the network. So in this SOAK, the another version of your operating system which we use, the Kali Linux, so that can generate the packets and they do the port scanners and the proof of context exploits are some of the examples of this the pen testing tool. So for that, another version of operating system which is used, Kali Linux, right? So for analyzing, for network analyst purpose, your security onion operating system, which is one version of your Linux. And for doing the attack on the network, we use the Kali Linux, which which is used for doing the penetration testing. That means gathering the IP addresses of any organization's network and how to use those IP addresses to scan their ports for establishing a connection, TCP connection. And once, if any attacker is able to connect with the device, they can try to get all the information and do the attacks. Some active attacks or passive attacks can be done in that way, right? So in this, you just notice from 1 to the 14, all these tools are used for your penetration testing purpose. Okay. So, we generally do practice on all these tools in penetration testing course, specialized one, and then we try to get into. So those are few versions. So as said, if I summarize, Linux is the open source operating system. It takes less resources, the hardware resources. It is a file-based operating system. It operates in two different ways, in graphical user interface as well as in command line interface. But it is a command line interface is very powerful compared to other operating systems, so that any user can work on this operating system either directly on the machine or connect remotely also. And most of the network activities done through command line prompt only. Command line prompts only. Okay. So there are very famous command lines which are there in Nano or genome command lines. That is the terminals are there. So through that, any files can be created, any files can be modified. Okay, everything done through that. And these operating systems are basically used in the security operation centers. So there are two versions of operating systems. Linux operating systems are used in security operation center. One is Security Onion, which is used for your network analysis purpose and your cyber security analysis purpose. Another operating system we call Kali Linux, which is used for doing the penetration testing on the network. So to do this, as we know that in most of these commands, these operating systems works on command line. So let us talk about working with the cells or the consoles or the terminals we call. So as we said that Linux users communicate with the operating system through either your CLI or graphical user interfaces. But most of the system administrators or your network administrators, they use the command line interfaces. So these command line interfaces, so as soon as you enter into Linux operating system, it will give you the graphical user interface. But to open and work with this command line interface, you can go through the terminal application. If you open that terminal application, that will allow you to work in terms of your command line programs. So there are some popular terminals are there in this Linux. We call eTerm, which is also one terminal, famous terminals, and sometimes we use in our the laboratories also. Xterm, console, or genome terminal. So among this, the most popular tool is the genome terminal. So, and there are some other terminals are there which can support on the web-based interaction. So we called, that is developed by the Fabry Bollard that created the JS Linux, which is allows the users to interact with the machine through the browser. So in our the upcoming the lecture series, sometimes we may spell sometimes cell, console, or console window, or CLI terminal, or terminal windows. These are basically interchangeable. Okay, while doing your the lab work, if you find any of these the terms in our lab pages, you assume that it is a terminal. It may be console, cell, or console window, terminal window, or your genome, or you can use any other names also. So in the Linux cell, when you open the genome terminal, it looks like this. So as soon as it opens, up to $, after that you can start entering the commands, any command, like to create file or delete file, modify file, make directory, create directory. Okay, so the command prompt looks like this, the genome command prompt. So then on that command line or terminal, what are the basic commands? It's having the vast number of commands, but basic commands which are useful for the Linux administrator as a network administrator or a cyber security administrator are: one is MV. Remember these commands and try to practice to remember this. MV is the moving files from, or renaming files from one directory to another directory, or move files from one directory to another directory. We use the MV command. So after MV, after $, you write MV. Then you can write any file name. If we give the file name that text dot some txt. So in that command, if you want to move from from this location to any other location, you can give the destination location. So we'll practice on that in the lab. And then to work on that file, you have to have as a root privileges, root user privileges, or super user privileges. So if you want to modify anything, we use the command chmod. If you write the command that your chmod, And then if you write in which file you want to work, suppose you write text.txt, then this file will be opened, and then you start doing the modifications or writing anything, updates if you want to do, you can do in that way. And another what is your chown. So this changes the ownership of your file. So where ch stands for giving you the permissions to modify anything. Chown gives that changes the ownership of a file from your the administrative user to guest user, or guest user to administrative user. You can change the permissions. Okay. Then dd command that copies the data from your input to output. Input to output. So there we use this dd command, and pwd that displays the name of current directory, in which directory you are working. Now sometimes we go, because it is a file system, we may go from home to your etc to your suppose the network topology file. In network topology file you may go to the Python coding file. Okay. So, after time, if you don't understand in which directory you are, you simply give the command line pwd so that it will give you the path where you are. So after that, you can start changing your what you call the directories. And to list the process that are currently running in the system, we said the ps command, and su command is given to simulate the login as another user or become a super user of the computer. You need to give this command su or sudo sometimes. And another list of commands are sudo. Either you can give su or you can give sudo command that runs command as your super user. So if you are going to install any tools on this operating system, or if you are going to uninstall any tools, you have to have the administrative privilege. So you write sudo, and after that, if you want to update anything, you can update or delete or anything. And another important, within the file, if you want to find any text, suppose in this file, if I want to search for only the packages packages word, to search those words, we use the grep or grep command is used. So if I write grep command and packages, it will find all the packages word in this document. Then to check the IP configuration, we write ifconfig command, the most used command in the network analyst or your cybersecurity analyst. This ifconfig is used to display the current configuration of your system. The configuration displays or configure the network related information, like what is your private IP address, what is your public IP address, what is your MAC address. If you want to check, because these addresses are more important to understand by a network analyst. To check it out, we use this if command. And to install any packages, or to make your operating system up to date, use the command apt get command. apt get command. So this is used to install, configure, and remove packages from your Debian operating system, from your Linux. And another important command, because these are most important commands which we try to execute in our laboratory, in the lab. Then IW configuration config command is used to display the configuration of wireless networks related information. IF configure is for your wired network. IW config is used for your wireless network information. And setdown command is used to set down the system or perform the setdown related task. And for password, we use passwd is used to change the password. And to list out the whatever the content is there inside the file, we use the cat command. And to get the help, we use the man command. This man command documentation specifies all these commands which are available on that particular operating system. And then talk about the files and their directory commands, which are very frequently used in the network analysis side. First one is list out what are the different files are there in the directory. So we use the command ls command to list out all the files inside the directory. And if you want to change the directories, we use cd command, change directory command. And if you want to make any directories, you use make directory command. If you want to copy files from your source to destination, we use command cp. And we have seen this moving files to a different directory, we use the mv command. Rm command is used for removing files, and a grep command is used for searching a particular word or any sentence in that given file, and cat is used to display the entire content of your file, right? So then, working with these text files is most important for any network administrators. So this Linux has many different text editors are there, but with various features and functions. But some of the text editors, including the graphical user interface, are available. But while the graphical user interface text editors are convenient and easy to use, so the command line based text editors are very important for Linux users, because if you want to be a network specialist, you must use the command line, or you must practice more on the command line based the text editors to create files and modify files or update files, right? Because it will allow you to work remotely. That is, you can take advantage of that remote working if you use the graphical user interface. So whatever machine at your remote side that may support, may not be support, but if you work on the command line, that will support on both the sides. So as we said, the most popular, the what you call the command line text file text editor is Nano text editor. Okay, so the Nano text editor looks like this in the terminal file. This will allow you to the work through your keyboard basically. So as a administrator, they can edit the firewall rules, or they can modify the firewall rules, or they can edit the intrusion detection rules. They can modify the intrusion detection rules through files only. That file through the text files. These text files are can be created using this Nano editor. So due to the lack of this graphical support, this Nano editor can only be controlled with the keyboard, because we don't have it won't allow the other key mouse or some other graphical creating directory by just clicking right click and create folders or delete folders like that. So the importance of these text files in this Linux is this text files that includes the memory to store those files, and that includes the disks and the monitor and the directors. These are treated as your files. So why these are included means, as including memory, disk, monitor and your directories, these text files are important to configure the files or text files and use to store the adjustment and setting a specific applications and services. So different services, like if it is a server, then different services will be provided. Like we have seen different services like DNS service, DHCP service, TCP service, FTP service. Okay, those things. And these the text files are important for users with the permission level, the proper permission level. It won't allow anyone. If a attacker is able to the connected with our device, suppose with our the end device or network device, but if they don't have the proper privileges, okay, then they cannot open the file, they cannot modify the file, If they are unable to open the file and modify the file, the configuration of your system cannot be changed. If configuration is not changed, the attacker can't do with that machine. Right? And after the changes are made in that file, the file is saved and can be used by the related services or the applications. So here the administrator used the command, the sudo nano command, for creating the text files, and those files will be available in the directory etc. In that directory, whoever the hosts are there, it is available to only those hosts. So generally the administrators use this command to open the file. Remember this command, sudo command is used for what? To get the administrative privileges as a root user or the super user for that. And from where they can get this file, nano file, that is text file, which is available in the directory etc, in the etc which is available in the directory host directory. So the command sudo, that short for your super do, that invokes the super user's privileges. And in this figure, if you see, the administrator opened the configuration file here. In this configuration file, if you see, there are it is having the static table lookup information of your host, which is consisting of the local IP address that shows that there is a local host, and it gives the information of your local domain loop scripts. So here, instead of this, if you start configuring this, that I have 192.168.16.suppose.1. If this is assigned to your machine, local machine, then it is a static one, static IP address to identify any machine in the network. We call this as the private IP addresses. So the host file contains the static mapping of the IP addresses to their names. Okay, so different IP addresses are there. Your class A, class B, class C, class D, class E IP addresses. So out of them, we get the private IP address and public IP address. Okay, so this is the way of open it, so that you can find the information of your machine, how it is connected to the network. So by just following these steps, you try to do the Linux first lab and practice all these commands, the basic commands as well as the file commands, because we use these file commands in upcoming labs to open or create a network, small network, and that network creation will be written in the Python program, and you can execute that file in the Python tool, which is available in the Linux, so that it can create a visual network to you to work on that. Okay. Yeah. So by getting familiar with this Linux in this lab, then you will use the Linux commands in the managing files, folders, and they perform some basic administrative tasks also. Okay. So next, we try to discuss the concept of the client server concept. Client server concept. So can anyone tell me what is the difference between client and servers?
It's like a user versus like database kind of, or like something like you're communicating and not specifically going to do something.
Okay. Any idea?
The server basically provides services and things for the client, the end user to access.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is the difference is the client means suppose we have one desktop or laptop or any machine, suppose we call some computer like this. So it is an individual computer, right? It can provide to only one user can use that machine at a time. Hmm? But if it is a server, suppose this server can try to give service to many users, user 1, user 2, your user 3, your user 4, because server is a common point, many users can connect it to it. So server provides multiple services or different services to different users. Okay, so here one to many is there, whereas in clients means it is one to one service providing, means only one user can use that, right? So how this Linux servers and clients works, that we see in the client server communication, we have the clients here. The clients may be your the telephone or mobile phone or your what you call the desktop or your laptops or anyone. They can send a request to get some. Suppose if it is a web server, if it is a web server, so web server runs the web pages, right? So web pages means we try to give the domain names. So that domain names goes from your client, it may be your computer, to the server in terms of HTTP or HTTPS. So upon getting that request from your client, your when that HTTPS request comes from your client to your server, server will search in its database whether that web page is available or not, and that web page provided back to your client, right? Suppose from this mobile phone another HTTPS came, like in this HTTPS, let us assume that utsa.edu. Another user wants to open that some what you call some other websites. Let us see cisco.com. Another one wants to give the command like netacad.in, suppose. So these are all services request given by these clients. So the server is able to find those web pages and gives that web page back to your server, clients. This concept we call it as your client server communication. So as said, the servers are the computers only with the software installed that enable them to provide services to the clients across the networks. Maybe any number of clients will be there. So some provide the external resources such as files, email, messages, or web pages, or clients upon their request. As we saw, the web pages like utsa.edu or cisco.com or cisco.net or anything. And other services that these, the servers provides to these clients are they run the maintenance tasks such as the log management, disk scanning, as to optimize the resources. So how this log management done by the servers? If your server is running a Linux operating system, by doing the log manager tool, if you run the log manager tool can maintain all the log events. Right? So each service that is required separate server software. In this case, for HTTP, for files, different the request. For email service, different request. For web service, web pages, different requests will be there. So this server, in this figure, if you see, it is a file server. So this file server software to provide client with the ability to retrieve the submitted files. It may be your image file, text file, or audio file, or video file, those things. Okay. So in this, if you go in detail, servers and what are the different services that they can provide, and for those services what are the different ports are used. So in your computer networks, you might have heard we have talked about this transport layer protocols. There you can find what are the different services that server can provide. Okay, you might have heard about the service that file transfer protocol. In file transfer protocol, these protocols are used to upload or download the huge volume of files from your client to server or server to client. Client can upload and server can, from server, client can download it. For that, it used the protocol we call the file transfer protocol. That file transfer protocol is a service. For this protocol, a service will be provided by your server for uploading files or downloading file, and the ports which are used for those providing that service is special ports 20 or 21 is used. Yes, please.
Is Falcon's protocol secure?
Correct.
Is it secure? Like encrypted communication?
Yeah, how you are connecting with the machine is important. So to do this secure file uploading and downloading, you have to follow the security mechanisms. So in that security mechanisms, you may connect with the remote machine, the server using your secure cell, SSL, or you may use the XTerm. So that's the reason you connect with the with your computer virtually by using some virtual tools. We call them the secure cell, SSH or SSL. Once you connected, then you start executing FTP for uploading and downloading files, so that your files will be securely go to the server and securely downloaded from the server. But here at this point, what is important for us to remember for do this FTP for file transfer protocol, you need to connect with the server, right? When you are trying to connect with the server, you need to enable this protocol first. You must run this protocol, FTP. So when you run this protocol, it takes the port number is 20, 20 or 21. 20 or 21. So if you are connected with the machine and if these ports are running, if any attackers are trying to attack your machine by using pen testing tools, they will first check which service is running now between client and server. FTP is running, okay. If those ports are open or closed. Okay. For your question, if it is closed, attacker cannot use that service. If it is open, attacker can also use that service to connect with the server. So as a network administrator or analyst, when you are configuring in your file, text file, when you are configuring, you mention that only, suppose for your device, the IP address is given 192.168.5.5. So the port number 20 by 21 open for only this IP address, that is rule. So if my IP address is 192.168.5.50 suppose, if I try to connect with the server through this FTP, it will not allow. So there we say the firewalls. So the firewalls you are going to write the script, configure. Clear? Okay. So then another port, if you find that port number is 20, that means it is providing a service. The server is providing a service for connecting the clients with the secure cell protocol. Okay, so it is very important for this course as well as as a network administrator to remember these numbers. 20 by 21 means it is FTP service. Okay, so 2021 reserved there. 22 is used for SSH, secure socket cell. Okay, it is connected secure socket cell. Cell means, as we are saying, console or terminal. So securely you are connecting through terminal. 23 is used for your telnet to remote login service. Remote login on your computer. Okay, that means you can sit at your home and connect with your server room. Okay, and 25, port number 25 is used for your simple mail transfer protocol, SMTP, for mailing purpose. Okay, and 53, port number 53 is used for domain name systems, and 67 and 68, these are dynamic host configuration protocols. So when you are trying to configure your network, as a network administrator, you should remember these reserved ports. These are reserved ports. Okay, 2021 for FTP, 22 for SSH, 23 for your the remote connection, 25 for your SMTP. These are the regular services which are used to connect the servers, right? And other reserved the network ports are 69. So this 69 for your the trivial file transfer protocol, whereas 2021 for your FTP, simple file transfer protocol. For trivial file transfer protocol, 69th port is reserved, and 80th port for your HTTP connections, like utsa.com or utsa.edu, that comes in terms of HTTP, that is in the form of your 80, port number 80. Through that port only all the communication goes. Okay, 10110, that is used for your post office protocol version, POP version, to get emails and those things. POS version 3, we call post office protocol version 3. And 123 is used for your network time protocol. 143 port is reserved for internet message access protocol, and your 161 and 162 are used for your SNMP, simple network management protocol. Okay, we are going to talk about each of these protocols in details in coming lectures. Okay, and port number 443 is used for your HTTP secure one, HTTPS. For HTTP 80, for HTTPS secure connection we use your 443. So have you observed this, the difference on the browser anytime, HTTP and HTTPS? In HTTPS, when you open the browser, in the address bar you find that HTTPS, so there you find one lock symbol. If it is unlocked one, that means the service is HTTP. So simply identify. Okay. So here let me just write this my if you see this address here, are you able to see the lock here? It shows that you are running the HTTPS connection. The connection is secure, it shows that. If it is unlocked, means the connection is unsecure. So anyone can join that. Okay. Yeah. So so these are few important ports. As a network administrator, these port numbers should be on your tongue. Remember every time that 2021 means FTP, and your 443 means your HTTPS, 80 means HTTP. Okay, 60 means 69 means it is the TFTP and so on. So you need to remember those ports, because as a network analyst, first and foremost task when you are monitoring the traffic as a tier 1 specialist, they first go and check these port numbers on which ports are open, which ports are closed, status. Yeah. So comes to the client side, what kind of the services that client can get. Client is just an individual, right? So clients are the programs or applications designed to communicate with specific type of your servers. It may be FTP server, web server. It may be your the what you call the text servers, different services. So clients use a well-defined protocol to communicate with these servers. So if web browsers are web clients that are used, they communicate with these web servers through the hypertext transfer file. That is either use the port number 80 or port number your 443 to communicate with the web servers. To communicate with the FTP servers, they use the FTP protocol. So they enable which port number for FTP? 20 and 21. Okay. So for different services, different port numbers will be enabled to communicate directly with the servers. Okay. So you will do this practice at your lab. Once you open that, you will get one network which is already created. Okay. By using these commands, you can work on that. So you will get some observation. You write those observations in that lab files. Okay. So in this lab, what you will use the Linux commands to identify the servers that are running on the computers. So if you give the command line that if config, the config command, it will give you the all details like IP addresses, port numbers, and services. You will find this there. Okay. So that comes to as a server administrator. To become as a server administrator, you need to the Linux services are managed using the configuration files, as we said. So as an administrator, you can create the configuration files and you can manage those files, right? So in the where we find these configuration files, the configuration files you find in the etc folder of your home page. In that etc you will find the configuration. If you want to check the configuration files of your network configuration files, you will use this directory path, which will give you the configuration file. So to check what are the contents are there in this configuration file, we use the command cat. So the cat command is used to display the content inside that configuration file. So by giving this command, it gives that the user is using the HTML protocol and what are the worker process are there. So it gives all the details of that configuration file. So there the common options in this configuration files are your port numbers, location of the hosted resources, and client authorization details. These are very important. Port numbers, which port numbers are open, which port numbers are closed, who are the hosts which are associated with those port numbers, and what privileges those hosts are having. They are having the guest privileges or the administrative privileges. Guest privileges means they cannot modify their configuration. If they have the administrative privileges, they can modify. When they are able to modify, they can change IP address. When they change IP address, host will be changed. Correct? Yeah. So when the the server starts, it looks for its configuration files first, loads them into the memory, and adjusts itself according to the settings in the files. So in the configuration file, if you configure the dynamic host protocol, DHCP, so which port number is used for DHCP? Yeah. So if it is given, that means what? When this system is on, one IP address is there. Once I set down and restart, it may get another IP address. So that is possible because of DHCP. If DHCP port is disabled, suppose not configured, okay. So when your operating system starts, it will go with this static IP address only. If that static IP address given to any other, it gives conflict. Okay. So the command output shows a portion of the configuration file for the Nginx, which is a lightweight web server for the Linux operating system. Okay. Yeah. So the command, the output for this cat etc and the ntp.configure, what it means? It is going to open the configuration of your network, the network type protocol, NTP protocol configuration. So for every service, one configuration file will be there. That configuration files will be automatically loaded into memory by operating system once it is started, and then start executing. So all these services will be enabled. Okay. So as just remember this, when the service starts, it looks for its configuration file. It may be for web server, this configuration file. For NTP server, NTP configuration file. For your, the HTTP server, HTTP configuration file. For FTP server, FTP configuration file will be open. Right? So in this case, the network time protocol configuration will be open, and that gives all the details of that protocol. Okay. Then for the intrusion detection files system, so where you will find in the etc of your security onion operating system, the etc file, if you go to snot folder, in that folder you find the snot configuration for intrusion detection system. So this snot is a inbuilt tool of your security onion, right? So the command output shows the configuration file of your snot. So this snot is a Linux based intrusion detection system. We talk more about this intrusion detection system. Okay. So there is no rule for this configuration for this intrusion detection system. There is no rule for this configuration file format. It is the choice of your service developer. So however, the option is equal to value format is open to use this not. That means if you want to allow only the HTTP on your server, then you can give the optional value that optional is equal to, for HTTP we use the port number 8. So it allow only the HTTP traffic to the network. If HTTPS traffic comes, suppose that is having port number 443, right? So 443 will not match with the value 80. So simply what it do, intrusion detection system, it is a malicious packet and it drops there. That packet will not be allowed inside the network. Yeah? So that's the beauty of this, the intrusion detection system part. So that is by giving this command, and to check what is there inside the content, we use the cat command. So the rule for the packages of your snot configuration will be given. For more information, you just go and check it out. How this snot org works as a rule-based one. Okay. But for simple step, we say that in the optional one, if you give the option is equal to 80, it will allow. If any other comes like 443 or 20 by 21 port number packets, or if it finds any 69 packets, they all are dropped at the entry level only. Okay. Okay, so another service configuration file. Okay, okay, yeah, the hardening devices. So the basic, the server administration is doing that, hardening the devices. How? So devices hardening that involves implementing proven methods of securing the devices and protecting its administrative access. So, what are the proven methods for securing the devices and protecting the administrative access? Means some of the methods which involves are maintaining the passwords, configuring the enhanced remote logins using your SSH remote logging. Only authorized users can use that remote logging. Like we are using the UTSA VPN. Okay. So if you don't connect with through our VPN, then it will not allow us to access the services. Okay, and that depending the Linux distribution, many services are enabled by default. But if you want to stop, you can stop, and you can limit the privileges to connect with the servers. So stopping such services, ensuring. So how you are going to stopping those services? You're going to stop those services by just going through their configuration file and make the option stop service. Okay. So this as ensuring that they do not automatically start at the boot time, and whenever they require that, the administrator can start that. So the operating system updates are extremely important. So every time you need to update the operating system by using a special command, that apt get update. This is a command, right? This is a command which we use, the basic Linux command to update. We use the update and just giving the enter, so that will update the operating system. Okay. So this why means if you don't update your operating system, some bugs or patches are missing. If those patches are missing, those are enough for attackers to attack your machine. Okay. So in hardening the devices is these are the best practice for making hardening your devices. One is ensure the physical security. No one is access the device. So inside the room or anything, physical security is important. Then minimize the installed packages. You try to install limited number of packages for network security purpose. Okay, and the disable the unused services. If it is web service, web server, use only web services. Disable all other services, FTP, HTTP, and all the other services. You just disable it so that you can make hardening your device. And try to use the secure socket layer, and you disable the root account login over SSH. So only authorized users, guest users can connect, and disable your administrative privileges means they cannot modify any configuration files. Then keep this system update by using apt-get, and disable the USB auto detection, because if USB is connected and if it is auto detected, it can start executing the malwares, right? And enforce the strong passwords, and force the periodic password changes, and keep users from reusing the old passwords. So these are few key points which are used by the server administrator to hardening the device to protect that server from the attackers, right? Then monitoring the service logs. So by to monitoring these service logs, it used some log files that can be categorized as application logs, event logs, your service logs, and your system logs. So if you categorize that, it is easy for you to check it out the alerts. Okay, because you are restricting the services on the servers. If it is web server, only web applications will be there. So web application logs will be registered in this file. Okay, and event logs on that web application, what kind of events performed, that gives service logs and your system logs. So some logs contains the information about the daemons that are running in the Linux. So this daemons is the background process that runs without the need of your user interaction, right? So in the monitoring service logs, I'll just take only 2 minutes time, we'll finish. In the Linux log files, we use this monitoring service logs. One is where these service logs are available means on your operating system. You go through the var folder, in that log folder will be there. In that log folder for messages, you check the messages directory. You can check the authentication log files, which gives the authenticated users information. Okay, these are very important. And for the secure, so this gives the information. It also tracks the sudo logins. This gives the directory which is used by your Red Hat, your CentOS computers for authenticated purpose. That is, the SSH login information will be there. In SSH login, you need to protect this SSH login. If SSH login, if ID, the host IP address changes, then attacker can put their own IP address as a secure connection, so they can operate remotely. And another one is boot log, is another service, very important service to keep. Then the dmessage logs and your kernel logs, your cron logs. These cron logs services are used to schedule the automatic task. And mainly for protecting your database, use the MySQL log files. To monitoring this, use these commands. So these are some monitoring service logs for the messages that it looks like what are the different services are going on. Okay, and their kernel services. Right? Yeah, so with this, I would like to stop. In this lab, when you do this one, you will get familiar with locating different files, configuration files, application log files, and manipulating the log files in those in this particular lab. Okay, so do practice more so that you can remember the commands, file commands, port numbers, and their services, and try to identify the configuration file locations, log file locations, so that if to become as a network tier 1 analyst, your first job is to identify these locations and operating system to find the alerts. Okay, so yeah, with this I would like to stop the session. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.